You're listening to DruidCast episode 217. Hello my friends and welcome to DruidCast episode 217. I am your host Dave the Bard and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of the month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about membership to the Order and our courses, you can do that on our website, which is at druidry.org. Opening the show, you heard Prayer to the Year, a track from the new album Nightjar from Liz Overs. It truly is a wonderful album. So if you're a fan of folk music, do check it out. And remember, you can find links to all of the artists featured on DruidCast in the show notes. Now, my friends, there are 3 roles that make up the triad of the Order, and these are Chosen Chief, Pendragon and Scribe. The current Chosen Chief is Irma Burke, the Scribe is Stephanie Cargom, and I, up until recently, was the Pendragon. I was installed as Pendragon of the Order at the Summer Gathering in 2010, and after 15 years in the role, after much thought and contemplation, I decided to hand it on to someone new. And that someone new was announced at this year's OBOD Summer Gathering to be Matt McCabe. So to introduce Matt to the wider OBOD community and to you DruidCast listeners, I thought it'd be nice to invite him onto the show and have a previous Pendragon interview the new one. So grab your cuppa, my friends. Here is the new Pendragon of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, Matt McCabe.
The Talky Bit.
So I am here with Matt McCabe, old friend of mine, and recently at the Summer Gathering I passed over the Pendragon role to him, officially starting at the Winter Gathering. But before we get into the Pendragon stuff, I think it would be really nice for listeners to the show and for OBOD members to get to know their new Pendragon a little bit better. So I'm going to fire some questions at you. I hope you're up for this.
I hope so too.
Okay, so the first one. When did you begin to get an interest in things esoteric?
That is a very good question, and you start, I guess, by thinking back to your childhood and thinking what was interesting, what was special. And I grew up in the countryside, and that was just a lovely, in the 60s, the end of the 60s. And it was just magical. Everything was magical. And then we kind of moved into town, and then it's kind of like the learning. It was through O levels at the time, GCSEs, and I was doing RE, and somewhere around the age of 15, I thought, this is absolute nonsense. What am I doing this for? And just chucked it out. And I didn't think. I had an interest in sort of mysteries and, sort of Aztecs and ancient civilizations and things like that. But I went off to art college, and I wish I'd had an interest then, really, I think, because I did 4 years at art college and did a degree in film and animation in the end. But I didn't have anything sort of spiritual that I wanted to say. So it was on the day we graduated that I rang up somebody I'd grown up with in the same village in Sussex, who was now living in Cornwall. And I said, I hear you've become a druid. Can we come and film you? Because we can use all the college equipment for, another, over the summer break, as it were. And so we went down and filmed Hamish Miller, who was in the middle of writing a book with Paul Broadhurst called Son and Serpent, about the Michael and Mary lines that many people have come across, and sort of had this extraordinary week in Cornwall. I think on the first day he took us up to the Merry Maidens, dowsing, talked about dowsing and healing, and that was the thing at the point at which I thought, oh my God, I've been in education all my life. Nobody told me anything about this.
Right.
And the old gods and the spirituality rooted in the land. And it's kind of, wow, what's this? And I think I did that whole. I was involved in an organisation called Fountain International, which was healing, earth healing, community healing, that sort of thing. And Hamish was part of that, and it was sort of a very new agey thing, in a way, and I and it was all about energy coming down from above. Woo! And I was kind of into the energy coming up from below. And that was sort of, I got to the point where I was absolutely desperate for some structured learning, some really earthy, practical, structured learning. And funnily enough, it was somebody called Chris Street, who was, I think, the Earth Stars Grove, who was also in Fountain, was doing his Earth Stars book at the time. And we were having a discussion, and he said, I've just seen this. You might be interested in this. And it was a copy of Prediction Magazine, and it was the advert that had been placed in Prediction Magazine. Yeah. And I think I wrote off straight away, but I got the introductory pack, which was, I just thought, I had that. I was one of the people who said, it just felt like coming home. But I didn't have the courage or the cash to send off for the coursework until the following year, which was 1990, when I got a job in the north of England. And I thought, well, that's something I'll do whilst I'm up there and I don't know anybody. I'll send off for this course. And sort of, so that was a sort of a journey to Druidry. And I think so in the 80s I think I decided I was pagan. I wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but something to do with the old gods. And I hadn't really made that connection with pagan philosophy. So Aristotle, all those geezers. Yeah. I hadn't really thought, apart from the Monty Python football sketch, I hadn't really thought. Actually, these are my people. This was the sum of human knowledge prior to Christianity arriving. Right. And so and I arrived with Obod. Yeah. There they were.
So. I replied to that Prediction Magazine thing as well. Mine was in 1994, so I was 4 years after you. You're member number 5 of Obod, which is incredible. I'm member number 1,346 or 43, I think. So I'm many people after you. But what's interesting is that your journey in was through more the Earth Mysteries side of things with Hamish Miller and Paul Devereaux and people like that. Rather than kind of the Wicca witchcraft, that kind of thing, or even magic. My route in was very much about magic, with a background in ceremonial magic. But and I was a late comer to the Earth Mysteries stuff, really. Right. It took me to a visit to the Merry Maidens in Cornwall before that was when I kind of went, I can feel something here. Me too. And, and it's connected to what I believe, and off we go. So, okay, so 1989, you sent off for the intro leaflet, intro book, I guess, the intro pack, and then joined in 1990. That's really early on. That's Obod was only refounded in 1988. So that's you sent off the intro pack a year after it was refounded, and joined 2 years afterwards, which is remarkable.
That is weird, isn't it? I mean, I landed in Northumberland, and I always kind of joke, the first Druid I met was small, dark, hairy and gay. Right. And the second Druid I met was a woman. So I thought, wow, this is...
Yes, so much for the bearded old man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole thing was much more diverse than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I think that and also people's stories, and the moment people have realizations has been something that fascinated me, and Dave, who was there was 4 of us in the original Northumberland Grove, I think, and Dave was ex-military police, and he'd had his moment on the top of a hill in the Falkland Islands.
Wow.
And came back home looking for his native tradition, and I think his wife Kate, she'd done the Wiccan thing as well, and I think there was only 4 of us in Northumberland at the time, but the variety of experiences, and that's something that still, one of the things I absolutely love about OBOD is sitting down listening to people tell their stories. It's still absolutely wonderful. From those first stories, and I always think, wow, people's lives are so much more exciting than mine.
But then you open your mouth and you'll be interesting to them. That's the thing, isn't it?
I think it's that thing of storytelling and the shared story, and people don't often get to tell their stories, but I think it just OBOD Druidry allows you to tell your story, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Well, OBOD now 35,000 members plus, 60 worldwide seed groups and groves, probably more than that, I think. All of the tutors that are out there who are all volunteers with their tutees. It's grown so much in those times. So come on, what was it like for member number 5 when you started the course?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when I started, the only tutor was Philip.
Right. Okay.
so I think in the Bardic and Ovate grades, the only tutor was Philip. So I think in 94 or 93, the tutors were set up. Oh no, there were already Bardic tutors, I think. So they set up the Ovate tutors, and I was asked if I would be one of the Ovate tutors, and there were myself, Kate Tully, I think. There was Emma Restel Orr and Maddie Johnson, and we did these are names from the deep past of OBOD,
yes,
and we did a little initiatory ritual at Druridge Bay on the northeast coast, which is 18 miles of sandy beach, but there was a sea fret, so there's this wall of fog sitting about 10 foot into the sea, and behind us was this sand dunes. So we did this initiatory thing to become Ovate tutors at this most extraordinary moment, because you could look either way and you could see 9 miles either way, but it was absolutely blocked behind us and blocked in front, and we were in this liminal space. And one of those incredible experiences that OBOD throws your way. But what was it like? I mean, everyone knew each other. It's and I think that's one of the things that is the challenge about becoming a larger organization, is everyone kind of knew each other, and then you get people who have different ideas about what OBOD should be, and of course they just say, Philip, you need to be doing this, and Philip was famous for his probably still is, but famous for his rather short replies. And it's like, so perhaps you feel the need to be doing something, and
yes,
and maybe you should be. So always kind of empowering in his way. So that was amazing, and and for a day out from Northumberland Grove, we used to go down to the Northern Grove at their place for a bit of grown up. But again, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? The first time you pluck up the courage to go and meet other druids. It was so I the first time when I met Nigel, he was the first other druid I met, and sort of we met at a railway station. I can't remember which one it was now, but not far out of Tyneside, and and it's kind of like that was 1-to-1. But then we were in the car on the way to the Grove one night for, I don't know, Beltel Samhain or something like that, and I'm suddenly thinking, I had one of those moments going, I don't really know these people, and who are all these people we're going to meet? And I kept having to tell myself don't be silly. Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And of course it was, but it's kind of like the Wicker Man flashes in your head.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm going to the side of Pendle Hill. So it was, because at the time there wasn't a kind of network, and there was no social media. So there was no social network. It was literally you go and meet people, and then of course the people you meet there. I remember there was a lawyer, there was a journalist, lots of people work in care, and absolutely lovely people, and that was the scale of it. And then I think the other interesting thing that happened to me at the same time that I became a tutor was Philip rang me up and said, "Now you work in television, don't you?" Which I was at the time. And he said, "I've been asked to do this show." And I said, "Absolutely, under no circumstances do that show." It was a Clive Anderson roasting people, and I said the person they need is Arthur Pendragon. So, and I think at that point I became sort of the media advisor to the Order, and sort of started filtering Philip about how to engage, and then I started doing it as well. And but at that time, the opening question from journalists was, "Hi, we got Matt with us. He's a druid. And, hi, Matt. Have you sacrificed any virgins recently?"
I know.
And that was the level of engagement.
Yeah.
This is a spiritual path that we're walking here, and the opening line. So that's when I came up with the phrase, because of course, you're trying to find something that people will agree with. Well, not even that people will agree with, people will allow you to say, and they won't disagree. But I came up with the phrase that Druidry is about exploring your path within the natural world. So the natural world is your textbook, and Druidry throws experiences at you. The natural world throws experiences at you, and you consider your response to those experiences, and that's your Druid, and that's the Druid path. But the Druidry is about exploring your faith within the natural world was kind of like how I opened the conversation, and it allowed me to control what I said next, because they could either ask me about Druid is about exploring your faith, so we talk about exploring faith, or the natural world. What is it about the natural world that is part of your spiritual journey? So it allowed me to control the conversation. But back then, in those early 90s engagements with the media, it was
horrendous.
It was a funny old time.
It was.
But of course, the journalists were all pleased to have you on. It was great fun. And then I do remember doing towards 2000. There was the run up to 2000, and everyone was looking for something, sort of meaning in that rollover. And we had the Y2K bug that was going to bring civilization to an end, and then never happened.
It was. I remember the Pagan Federation every year used to give us tons of leaflets and information to give out to journalists, particularly around Samhain. Because it really was just digging for dirt at that amount of time, and absolute ignorance. And to be honest, I think people like the Pagan Federation and probably yourself and early Obod, and they really helped to change. That.
I mean, I've been a member of the Pagan Federation pretty much the entire. Maybe if I graduated in '86, somewhere late '80s I joined, and then I've lapsed a few times, but I'm currently still a member. So
I mean, that was really good work back in the day, without a doubt. The anti-defamation stuff that they did, within the press. So let's talk a bit more about you yourself and your personal journey. I mean, how would you describe your Druidry? It's different for everybody, isn't it? But what about Matt McCabe? How's yours?
I think I'm probably the eternal student in that. I haven't quite figured it out yet. Well, it's interesting. Certainly, I think Philip once described my brand of Druidry as community Druidry, and I was very keen to be part of a Druid community. But I think my best friend was killed on September the 11th, and I sort of, that kind of threw me in that, what was I really doing with my life, and what I thought was important, because that could be me the next day or something. And in fact, the day after, I was filming in the top of one of the towers in London with all the planes banking round to head into Heathrow, and we were all terrified. We were all absolutely, myself and the crew. And when I said, I think I've got enough, the crew were, great, let's get out of here.
Wow.
But then when there was the attacks on the tube, I couldn't get on the carriage at Turnpike Lane. I couldn't get on the carriage of the carriage that blew up.
Wow.
Just part. I couldn't. It was too full. I couldn't get on. So I had to get on the next train, which then got stuck in the tunnel behind the one. So too many things happened. So I sort of stepped back, and I absolutely focused all my efforts. So I've been in the London Grove, and we'd done the ritual, the ceremonies. But I absolutely stepped back from everything, handed the media stuff over to Adrian, stepped down as a tutor. And I just focused on where I was living, and making my contribution in that area of Tottenham where we lived. And I started a little friends group for the little recreation ground, and worked with Spirit of Place there. And we held festivals there, family festivals, and that was very much what I wanted to do, following those the sort of the traumatic years. I know there's been quite a few more traumatic years since then, but I think community druidry, and I guess now it's coming back to, when it talks about what are you going to do for your community, and so that's what I was doing. And I sort of, but then I look at you, and your gift to your community seems to be the whole of the world of pagan communities through your music, and that's a bit of a tough act to follow when one doesn't have that musical talent. But where I live, it's really important for me to be out and about as a druid, and to be involved in the community, and especially in the open spaces, and making sure open spaces are available to people. So gosh, we've got a community tree nursery here, heritage apple orchard. I'm involved in running the woodland next door, putting a permissive path through that, creating open space that people can use, because I think we're moving into a time where it's really hard for people to trust what they're being fed by the media. I mean, we always kind of knew that one newspaper had one view and another newspaper had another. But now with social media, everybody's views are open to you, and so many people are just happy to lie. That where do you find truth? And it comes back to that Earth Mysteries thing. As actually, I believe that there is a truth within earth-based, nature-based spiritualities. There's truths. You cannot deny the solstice, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. That is a truth. It happens every year, and the equinoxes. So and there is truth in nature, and I think that's really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why people really benefit from reconnecting with nature. And I seem to have found a little niche doing that.
I think that's part of the reason why OBOD has grown so much, is that people are looking for that connection. And I remember talking to, I think it was Emma Restalor years ago, when she said to me, Dave, Druidry is all about relationship. and I think that really is it. It's not about manipulation. It's not about power over. It's about relationship. It's about being in relationship with the land, with relationship with your community. And I remember coming to your house in London, and if I remember rightly, your back garden opened out onto a field.
That's right. Yeah.
And you had a huge relationship with that field. And when I say field, it was like a playing field, or
it had been the playing field for the school, and then they built a new school on it, and suddenly, surprise, surprise, they couldn't use it, or it didn't really work as a playing field anymore.
Yeah.
So, but again, that was the working with the spirit of the place and establishing that relationship. You're absolutely right. Establishing that relationship with the spirit of the place. And one of the entrances was called Hawk Park Road, and so then delving into the history of the space, discovered that Hawk Park was originally a hunting ground in the Great Tottenham Forest, and the Belmont Recreation Ground was the last remnant of this green open space where once dukes hunted with hawks, and magical things like that sort of popped up. But yeah, we made such an effort to bring people back into that space.
Yeah,
that I saw that as part of the way I do things. And people, we got some friends who still live there who come and tell us what's going on and how people are enjoying the space even today.
And that those memories of that field and being at your house in London and the way you've got involved in the community where you are in Bath now, that was why your name came to my mind to take over.
Really?
Yes, because it ultimately what you are expressing there is it's not all about you, Matt. Do you know what I mean? That it's not all about Matt McCabe. It's about the community, the space, the relationship, bringing people together. And that, to me, is exactly the energy that a Pendragon needs. So that was part of what led me to suggest you in the first place. But we won't get onto that just yet. We'll leave that little bit for a bit longer. But one of your friends I know was Simon Emerson. Simon Emerson of the Imagined Village, of the Afro-Celt sound system. I remember he put together a tape, Bardas 1, and he was in a band, I think it was Stone Grove at the time.
Yeah.
So how did you meet? Sadly, no longer with us, deeply missed.
I know, it's sort of one of those key influences in your life. And in fact, Chris Street died, I think, last year as well. And Simon died last year. I met Simon on Iona. So 91, 92, I think we went on retreats, or 93, somewhere around there. And I met him at, what was the one in Devon? Down that way. I can't remember the name of that, something house. Anyway, we met down there on that retreat. In fact, we were sharing those. When just before he died, he came up to visit, and we were reminiscing about what had gone on down there, which I cannot repeat.
Okay.
But one of the things that happened was he said, I've got this tape. Have you got a tape machine in your car? It's how long ago? And he stuck this in the tape machine, and we sat in the car and listened. And he said he was producing an album for Baba Maal in Senegal. And there's two things that happened. One was that in the post-production, he thought, what would really go really well on here is some Irish percussion. And so he got the Irish musicians together with the African musicians, and they just jammed for a while, and he literally recorded it, and that became the first Afro-Celt album. And he was playing it to me and saying, what do you think? And I said, well, I like AC/DC, but I think that's pretty good, actually. I might buy that. Yeah. So there was the other thing that happened for him with Baba Maal is Baba Maal had taken him up country and said, and they'd done some ritual, and Baba Maal, Simon had said, I want to find out more about this. This is amazing, or that was amazing. I want to find out more. And Baba Maal had said, or the griot had said, go back to your own lands and find your native tradition. And he came back and he found Druidry, and then we sort of teamed up again on Iona for one of the Iona retreats, and that was where because he was a twitcher and or a birder, and he spotted something out on the ocean which I couldn't. It was a little blob, and he got very excited, and it was his totem bird, a great northern diver. And because I'd been going, looking at all the other little birds going, I go, oh, aren't they pretty? And he'd gone, and he was completely transfixed with his binoculars on this bird bobbing up and down on the water, and he was sort of like the person he had to tell was me. And I was thinking, oh, I don't know anything about birds, but I have to listen so he can be excited, and that was kind of where it all began, really. And then, because we lived in Tottenham, he lived in Haringey, so met up a few times in London, and then he moved down to Dorset, and we moved down to Bath, and sort of journeyed around. So Sophie, my youngest, who's now 17, but her first gig was the Afro-Celts in Bristol.
Wow.
It was got a little photo of her with Simon. It's little things like that. Absolute, just one of those people whose creativity was completely amazing. I never knew quite what he did, because he just seemed to be on stage strumming his guitar and sort of looking very serious with his little bald head going up and down, but just his creativity, quite extraordinary. And and I was so touched when he came up, just sort of a couple of weeks before he died, maybe 4 weeks before he died, and he came up with a load of merch and said, and funnily enough, introduced me to the person he'd been working with, Richard, and said, you two need to know each other. And of course, two completely different people, but he's brought us together, and we sort of, we keep meeting up. He's joined the Grove, Sulis Grove, and and again, somebody else in the music biz who's very creative, and in a way that I've never been, but happy to be around. It's a complete privilege. So I miss Simon. But interestingly, I got very close to becoming an MP, and I was in a winnable seat, and I was favourite to get selected, and I went to Simon's. I'd injured my knee, and I'd torn a ligament, but at Simon's memorial concert at the Roundhouse, I tripped up the stairs and fell, and really damaged my knee. I couldn't walk. Wow. And I was in a lot of pain, and I was in a lot of pain for some time. And I had this terrible moment of because I'm a Liberal Democrat, and we're utterly reliant on knocking on people's doors and shoving leaflets through people's doors. And I thought, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do what needs to be done to get elected. And I had an agonizing Christmas and New Year, and I just had to say I have to pull out. And Anna Sabine, I told everybody to they needed to vote for somebody else, and Anna, who was running with me, she got elected and selected, and then got elected as the MP. Right. So I came very close, and it's one of those things like, did Simon trip me up the stairs so I didn't do something very, very stupid?
And you don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, because for the universe to intervene like that. That's major, and I just thought, well, for the next 8 years, I'm not going to be an MP, 8 to 10 years. So it must be something else. Yeah.
And then I phoned you up from Cornwall.
And then you rang and said, can I pop in? Yes. So, yes, indeed.
And that led us to that moment. So Pendragons, some of the people listening won't know what that is. The order has three kind of a triad of people who it's almost like the buck stops here is what it really is all about. There's the chosen chief, the scribe, and the Pendragon. I made a crazy analogy at the summer gathering by matching those roles up to Motorhead and Lemmy, Filthy Animal, Taylor and Fast Eddie Clark.
Yeah.
He works, in a way, but I won't do that again. What I'll say is that the first Pendragon of Obob was Vera Chapman. Now, she was a writer, and she her expression of her druidry was through writing. That was her creativity, and she held the role of Pendragon for Ross Nichols for Newin when the order was founded in the 60s. She then passed that on to Will Worthington, and Will Worthington is an artist. He is the artist from the Druid Animal Oracle, the Druid Plant Oracle, the Druid Craft Tarot, the Wildwood Tarot. People love all of his art. His expression of his druidry and his creativity is with his art. And he passed it on to me, and I'm a musician and a songwriter. And so my expression of my druidry is through my songs and through my stories and the communication of audio, really, even with the podcasts here. And then I saw you with your community work and the way you held that so beautifully. And I thought that he's the right person for the job. And thankfully, Irma, Philip, Steph, all agreed. In fact, they all came up with your name as well. I didn't have to talk them into anything. We just said, who could take over from Dave? I was ready to pass it on after 15 years. Who could it be? And everyone said, Matt McCabe. Boom. So it was easy. All right. So I phoned you from Cornwall and I said, I've got something to ask you. I dropped into your house in Bath on the way home to Brighton and completely probably surprised you with that. I mean, how did that feel, when I said, how, would you like, I want to pass on the Pendragon role to you? What went through your mind?
Well, the first thing that went through my mind is, gosh, I wonder what that's about. What does the Pendragon actually do? Mm-hmm. And the next thing was, oh wow, is that why I didn't become an MP?
Yeah.
Oh wow, and then kind of the enormity of it, and because this isn't, as we were talking about earlier, this isn't a bunch of people who know each other. This is a very large organisation now.
Yeah.
With the people on the other side of the world. Well, we're all banging on about what a great Lunacy we've just had. Actually. For them, it's what was it, Imbolc?
Yes, exactly.
And to try and keep all that in your mind all at once. But it's so whatever the role is, I don't know how to follow Bill, Will, and you in terms of that creative, because Will's stuff is so incredible. I mean, I use the Druid Animal Oracle. We use it in the ritual workshop still. They still fill me with joy. And I have the memory of you sitting in my car at a retreat somewhere and going, "Hey, have a listen to this. I've got some new songs."
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't even remember, somewhere in the 90s, and just going, "Wow, these are." And just sort of, and I said, well, this is my story anyway. I said, what you sing about, these are the things I believe in. And then in your next album, you had a song called "These Are the Things I Believe." And it's like, wow, how does somebody take a phrase like that and create another, amazing piece of work out? Anyway, I don't know how I follow that as a Pendragon. It's
Well, look, Matt, if it's any consolation, when I was initiated as Pendragon in 2010, at the summer gathering 2010, and I think it might have been a week later, I went over to my first pagan spirit gathering in the United States. And I'm driving out there, and we arrive at the place. And at the time, there was a guy called Jason Pitzel Waters. He ran the Wild Hunt blog, which is still going, the Wild Hunt blog. But I think he might have even founded it, but he was certainly running it at the time. And he wanted to interview me about the Pendragon. Now, I'd been Pendragon for 7 days, maybe 10 days. And I think I might have disappointed him, because when he said, "So what is the Pendragon?" I literally had to say, "I don't really know."
Yeah.
Right now, I don't know. All I know is that it felt right to say yes. It felt like part of my life had led to this moment, and this energy was there, and I welcomed it with open arms. But the truth is, right now, I don't know. And I think what happens is each Pendragon grows into their role. You know, it's not for you. It might not be the creativity stuff and all that kind of stuff. It might be completely different. But what will happen is suddenly, and it took me a while, probably about 6 months, I'd say, before I really thought, oh no, this is what it is. I think working in the office at the time helped.
Yeah.
You know, that's unusual, and so that's not part of that. If anything, I think that confused the Pendragon role in people's minds, because it started to get linked with the idea of somebody who was working in the office, and that had never happened before, and I don't suppose it will ever happen again. It's not an office role; it's a spiritual place-holding role. It's the keeper of the sword. It's the when you know, if I will say that anything, it's when I lift the sword at the summer gathering, and you will say these words for the first time at the winter gathering, you know, and as you cast an Arwen, it's like declaring to the OBOB members, there's someone here who's got your back. Do you know what I mean? There's someone here who is holding the energy of the order with the chief and the scribe, and having 3 people in those roles, there can never be deadlock. Every decision will always be made, even if it's just 2 against 1. That 2 will mean the decision could be made like that, and things keep moving. So I don't think you need to worry too much about not quite knowing what the Pendragon means to you just yet. What I might do is invite you back on in 6 months and ask you the same question.
Ask me the question. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very lucky, really, because before Ema was chosen as the chief, when I was talking to her and finally, you know, talking about where she lives, and said, right, can we come out and visit? Can we have a boys' road trip out and visit you? And she rather foolishly said yes. And so I went out with Aid and Arthur and Bodger, you know, all long-term faces within OBOD, and we went out and we had a great long weekend out there. Did some jobs for her. She took us around some sacred sites and had great chats and all that. And then after that, she was announced as the chosen chief. So I think we got the chance to be friends.
Yeah.
And get to know each other before she was the chosen. So I think that there was that, we were able to build some trust in that relationship, because honestly, she did have a moment before we arrived of talking to a friend of hers, and she was saying, you know, I'm a woman's woman. I don't really do men that often. Why have I invited these men into my house? What on earth have I done? And anyway, she said afterwards, you know, you are so lovely that I was very pleased when you invited yourselves back the following year.
Brilliant.
So I think that helps, and I get on very well with Ema, and I really wouldn't want to be the chief of the order, because I think that's a very hard task, and it's like an always on task, as you say. You've got to be up there at the front of the microphone, giving it your all. Your motorhead, and Ema
is Lemmy.
Yes, and she seems to have the energy as well. So I'm more than happy to, you know, and I've always fiercely defended the order, and I'll fiercely defend the chosen chief. But and I would really like to get to know more people. I think what's going on, you know, I've got some very, very good friends in Germany. I love Germany, and I go out there and do the ritual workshops. But I think what's happening in Ireland at the moment is extraordinarily exciting. You know, there's a kind of, well, we were always doing this. You know, okay, the church put Christianity over the top of it, but we've always been doing this. You know, this is just our culture. But I think what's you know, and American, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, that sort of trying to tap into the spirit of your ancestors and that traditions and cultural traditions, I think is really interesting. And I remember doing I love ritual, because maybe that's the thing, isn't it? Maybe that's the thing. I was involved in rewriting the Order ceremonies in 2000 with Julie Britton and Susan Litnally, and when I hear some of the words that I wrote spoken in another language, it's quite magical. I mean, it's lovely to hear them anyway, but to hear them spoken in another language is just extraordinary. I mean, especially Italian, because Italian's such a fantastic language anyway, isn't it? But French as well, German. To hear your words spoken in different languages, and so I'd really like to kind of get around a bit. And I think the Germans are planning a big international conference in 2 years from now. That's 2 summers time, and I'll put myself out to make that a success. I think that's going to be really exciting. I mean, we do the ritual workshops after my quiet years when we moved down here in 2010. Things happening in 2010, obviously. It was Penny Billington got in touch and said, well, come on, you help to cause these ritual workshops to happen. Because I kept asking, why do we do that there? Why do we do that? What are we trying to do there? And what we need to do is chunk this up. So anyway, that's when Susan decided we needed to teach it, and she did the original ones. And then Penny said, well, come on, you've moved down here. Why don't you come and do them with me? And I have to say, I'm really pleased she did that, because that's brought me joy. Meeting O-bodies from all over the UK and Ireland, but also Europe, and the occasional traveller from distant shores come over to Glastonbury as a bit of a pilgrimage and do the ritual workshops. So a real, again, it's what a privilege it is. What a privilege it is to hear people's stories. So
yeah. Well, Matt, at the winter gathering, I don't know when, but some point during the day, I will officially hand over the sword and the Dawed to you. And that will be my journey done as Pendragon, and yours properly beginning. But until then, it's been lovely to chat to you.
Yes, I think I can hear 17-year-olds coming up the stairs, so it's going to get loud.
Yeah, nice to speak to you, buddy. Thank you.
Okay, you take care. I'll see you soon.
Travel to another land. I must go away. I must go away. I'm gonna march up that hill into the the Crow Highway. I'm gonna march up that through the gold bar and now the threads of the fair, threads of the fair, threads of the fair. I'm twisted with the morning god. I'm singing Rihanna song. I'm holding the cauldron strong. Drumming in the beach grove, I spiral through a rainbow drum. I must go away. I'm gonna dance up that the hawk soaring high. I'm gonna drum at the crown of the hill. In devil's punch lie the threads of the faith, threads of the faith, threads of the faith. I'm beasting with a morgan. I'm singing beyond song. Let the faith take my hand. I travel to another land. I must go away. I'm gonna march up that hill through the garden light of threads of faith. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. Threads of faith, threads of faith, threads of faith. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. Threads of faith, threads of faith, threads of faith. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna fly away. Threads of faith, threads of faith, threads of faith. I'm gonna threads of faith.
It was such a pleasure to talk to Matt, and I know he will hold that office well. I offer him every best wish as I get to pass over the sword and open up to adventures new. After the interview, you heard the new single from Draven Ashley Cruz called Threads of the Fae, and they will be performing on the same lineup as me at this weekend's Kent Magical Market and Fairy Ball, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes too. We are currently in the midst of our 5th heatwave here in the UK, and you can see that the grasses and trees are in desperate need of water. Kerry Dawes got in contact with me through my Patreon, saying that a friend had recently visited the Holy Thorn sapling in Glastonbury and it was looking very distressed, so they gave it a watering. Kerry, Kim Ora Rose and Richard Hick then wrote this poem that is coming up next, which asks us all to look out for our trees and do the same.
A prayer for the plight of the trees. A prayer for those whose voices whisper within the rustle of leaves, the call of the ravens, the earthen drumbeat, a call to the skies for the plight of the trees. For in silence they suffer, in the glare of the sun, and so I call to you all who might fill your chest with the scent of the trees as we wander amongst them through forest and grove. The signs are so clear, They have need of our help. They have need of our prayers to subsist through this wilting year. So let us call upon the ancestors. Let us call the quarters, north, south, west and east. Give guidance and wisdom. Give us balance to the elements. Give us water and healing. Bring an end to the suffering in which our trees are now caught. We call to the tree guardians, please join us in prayer. We call to the grove guardians, please meet with us there. To the land and sacred waters, bring the rain and relief to bless with your healing our companions, the trees.
Well, my friends, this music means we are approaching the end of the show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. There were 2 prizes, a copy of Arthur Hines' new album Sheaf of Riddles and Black Willow Starling's self-titled CD, and the question I asked was, in the story of the first branch of the Mabinogi told by Arthur Hines, what is the name of the otherworldly hunter Puig meets in the forest? Well, the answer is Araun, and the winner of both of those CDs is Tina Dirksen of Illinois. Congratulations, Tina. Those CDs will be with you very soon. For this month's competition, I have 2 copies of a wonderful book of inspiring poetry called I Write Because by poet Katie Victoria. Thank you so much for sending those in, Katie. The question I'd like you to answer is, Matt McCabe talked about when the Order once held retreats on a small island off the coast of Mull in Scotland, where St. Columba founded a monastery. What is the name of that island? Matt talked about when the Order once held retreats on a small island off the coast of Mull in Scotland, where St. Columba founded a monastery. What is the name of that island? If you don't know, a quick search on St. Columba will doubtless tell you. Email your answer along with your full postal address to podcast@druidry.org, and 2 of you will win a copy of that wonderful book. Well, my friends, that is a show. I hope you have enjoyed being introduced to the Order's new Pendragon and maybe understanding a little bit more about what the Pendragon role is. I'll see you back here next month for DruidCast episode 218. But until then, I wish you all, as ever, peace and blessed be. Goodbye.